Everybody's in debt, because everybody sees their future in property, right? So they have to get into a lot of debt to get property.
I'm actually okay. I've got no savings, but I'm in little debt. I've got student debt, but who hasn't?
I never, ever want to be in a situation where I'm waiting for payday.
By the time we leave uni, we'll be in like minus 50 grand anyway, so I think it kind of just glazes over.
I think if I took out debt of more than a few £1,000s, unless it was a mortgage, that would actually really concern me.
I wouldn't like to have debt. I have no credit cards. No. The only card that I've got is my bingo card. That's it, bingo.
And what about you? Do you know how much you owe? I know that between my car payments, mortgage payments and nursery fees, gosh, it can be quite tricky keeping track. I'm Kim McCallister. This is Clever About Cash. Once we've got big debts, they can be really difficult to clear. So we're going to focus on how to stop them mounting up in the first place. I've come to Fountainbridge in Edinburgh to try to teach some good habits to university students Avery, Rachel and Harrison. How much debt do you think you'll have by the end of your degree, Avery?
Honestly, I have no idea. It's not something I'm trying to think about yet, I guess.
What about you, Rachel?
I reckon about 60,000.
How do you feel about that?
It's quite a scary prospect now, but I think the fact that I'm going to pay it back over years makes it a bit more manageable to think about, but yeah.
Not too scary for the moment.
Yeah.
What about you, Harrison? Have you any idea what your debt will be?
Yeah, so if all goes to plan, it's going to be 37,000. Fingers crossed it's just going to stay at 37.
And you feel like that's manageable?
I hope so, yeah. As Rachel was saying, we've got a long time to pay it off, so.
And you are all in your first year at university. Did you have any education about how to manage your money? Did you have any idea about budgeting, Rachel? What was your idea of what was going to happen?
At school we didn't really get taught about it, but the student finance website's actually really good. It really talks you through each stage and how you'll pay back your tuition fees, how you're paying back your maintenance fees. But I feel like we were never just told it. You had to kind of seek out that advice.
Were you the same, Harrison? Were you quite organised?
I quite like the appeal of spreadsheets and seeing just everything all laid out, so I've always tried to be on top of everything and know exactly where my money's going and how I can get it back if I need to. I mean, I want to work in finance personally, so I've always had this sort of agenda to be on top of my money. If I'm on top of my money, I'll be fine with everyone else's.
Because you're studying economics and politics?
Economics and politics, yeah.
Right, so you aim to practice what you preach?
Exactly.
That sounds very encouraging. What about you, Avery?
I get, compared to a lot of people, a relatively small amount of money a week, and that goes to my food, my transport, whatever else I need, and I usually have just enough left over to get me on to the next week. So yeah, it's going so far so good.
Because I think that's part of it. As much as you have your spreadsheets and your good intentions, it's sticking to it and not going out for that extra meal or buying that extra piece of clothing.
I think the hardest thing is considering thinking far into the future, okay, in a month I'm going to want to go home, or I'm going to want to do these bigger things, or someone's coming to visit, so I'm going to want to spend a bit more money. Then it's not just thinking about it week by week, but thinking into your future.
The thing that you get very used to hearing, as opposed to people saying, I'm going into debt, is people just going, I am so broke.
Yeah.
At least once a day someone will be like, I have £5 to my name, and it is it's less. I don't hear a lot of students talk about debt, actually, because I think it's something that we're kind of, I wouldn't say burying our head in the sand about, but avoiding, because it's stressful and not necessarily fun to talk about. But there is a lot of I am broke, I'm on the line every week, and that is often the case. By Friday, you're just waiting for the money to come in and you're like, come on, we can do it, we can get there, I just need to get bread, I'm good, I would say that we don't focus excessively on debt publicly, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Quite stark choices you're making, I feel, we go out tonight or we eat tomorrow,
It kind of is, though.
I remember it not entirely fondly, I have to say. Have you ever been tempted to, open a credit card or find something else that could allow you to have a better lifestyle than you're currently funding?
Well, I've got a credit card. As soon as I hit 18, I was like, okay, I'm going to build my credit score so I can get a mortgage when I graduate and all that. But it's not difficult to manage, as long as you only spend what you spend on your credit card as you would a debit card, and you make sure you have the money to pay off your credit card. You can just use it as a debit card, but you also get, say, cashback benefits and your credit score increases. So I see no reason not to use my credit card as a debit card.
It can be a challenge clearing your credit cards, but financial coach Eileen Adamson has a strategy to help.
The average household in the UK owes £2,638 on credit cards, according to the latest Money Charity statistics. So if you're worrying about credit card debt, then you're not alone. Credit card and store card debt is one of the biggest problems, simply because it's so easily available, and it seems so acceptable because many other people are affected by it too. However, credit card and store card debts are crippling many families. The minimum payment trap means that many people will never pay off this type of debt. If you imagine you've got £2,000 on a credit card with a typical APR of around 18% and don't spend another penny on it, if you only pay minimum payments each month, it'll take you over 26 years to pay off that credit card bill. Yep, 26 years. Now, you might be thinking that all's good if you're able to make minimum payments, but it's not. If you continue to spend on a credit card and only pay minimum payments, you will never pay that card off. On a typical credit card, the minimum payment on a balance of around £2,000 is about £36. However, the estimated interest for the next month would be £35.24. So if you pay the minimum payment, then you're only paying 76 pence off the credit card balance because the remaining £35.24 goes in interest. Over the 26 years it will take you to pay it off by doing this, it will cost you nearly £3,000 on interest. Now you've only borrowed £2,000 in the first place. Escaping this minimum payment trap can make all the difference to getting on top of your debt. So one simple way of doing it is, if you make a fixed payment of £60 a month to your credit card, then the £2,000 will be paid off in just under 4 years, saving you over £2,000 in interest. If you can find some extra cash and up this to £100 per month, that would see you debt-free in just 2 years, saving you over £2,500 in interest. There are a couple of other simple things that you can do to pay off your credit card debt even more quickly, and I'll share these with you at the end of the show. However, if you feel that you're unable to manage your debt yourself, please get in touch with Step Change, a fantastic charity who will help you with your debt now without charging you a penny.
Eileen will be back later to give Avery, Rachel and Harrison some advice. So Harrison, in all your budgeting, how much of it goes to clothes?
I have to admit, I do like brands. I like to spend, a fair bit of my disposable income on brands.
Is that within your budget though?
Say I bought an expensive pair of shoes that was slightly over budget, I could then distribute the price over a couple of weeks. So instead of buying designer bread, I could buy basic bread, little things like that. But if I do them regularly, it'll cover the cost.
So you're in Aldi that week instead of Sainsbury's?
Yeah, exactly.
Got ya. Richard Forbes has been finding out how to take better care of your clothes and how that can be a good way to save money.
Here in Edinburgh city centre, there are loads of clothes shops to be spending your money on. But I'm joined by Miriam Adcock from Zero Waste Scotland to tell me that there's a more economical way of hitting the high street. Miriam, what should we be looking for when we're buying clothes?
Look at kind of the seams, the hems, what type of fabric it is, if it's hard-wearing fabric, so things like denim, leather, 100% cotton are going to last longer. One of the key things, I think, is looking at the labels. I do a little exercise when I run workshops where we look at symbols on clothes labels, and most of us haven't got a clue what they mean. They're not really designed to be easy to understand a lot of the time, so have a look. If you're not sure what it means, try and Google it and find out what it is.
I'm just wondering if I've got a label on the top that I'm wearing just now that I could maybe have a look at, have a wee rummage. So has that got any symbols or instructions on it?
It
Can you
has.
explain what they mean?
Yep, so it's got a little bucket that says 40 in it and a line underneath. So that means wash at a maximum of 40, and the line underneath means a gentle wash. If it's 2 lines, it's a very gentle wash. You've got a picture of an iron with 2 dots on. That's the one people do actually understand. So that's put on your medium setting on the iron.
And although this top says 40 degrees, I tend to wash it at 30 because I'm thinking that's an eco wash and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, so it's a maximum of 40. So yeah, 30 is much better. So if you can wash things at 30, that's great. Another thing is looking after your washing machine. So things like when you finish with your wash and you take your washing out, leave the washing machine door open to help the washing machine aerate. Once a month do a 60 degrees wash because that'll get all the gunge and stuff out. And another top tip someone gave me was, certainly with my washing machine, it automatically puts the spin cycle at 1200 and you can hear the machine bouncing about and you think, what on earth is that doing to my machine? He suggested actually turn it down. So I put it down to 1000 or below every time. So it's just putting a little bit less vibration through the machine and hopefully the machine will last longer as well.
I suppose many of us get into the habit of, at the end of the day, you just take the clothes off, you've worn them, you put them in the washing basket. It's a habit.
We do wash things too often sometimes. We get a bit obsessed with cleanliness. Wash things as you need them. A lot of things like wool really don't need washing very often. Like it's an outdoor clothing company near me sells a lot of merino wool clothing for adventurers and outdoorsy people because they've recognised that actually you could wear merino wool for days and weeks on end without having to wash it. So it's really practical.
How can you extend the life of the clothes that you've got just now?
We've found that 30% of the clothes in people's wardrobe hasn't been worn for ages. Sometimes it needs a simple repair. I often have a pile of, this needs a button putting on, this needs a zip fixing. So dig those out and have a go. But if it's something beyond you, go and pay somebody to do it. It's probably still cheaper to get somebody to repair it than to buy something new. Another option that a lot of people don't think about is renting.
No way.
You think men are really good. If men go to a wedding or something like that, they'll rent a kilt or they'll rent a suit.
Okay.
But women don't tend to do that, and yet often they'll buy a dress for a wedding and then never wear it again because they say, all my friends have seen me in that. So actually women should be renting the stuff.
And where would you do that?
There's not a lot of options at the moment. There are occasional ones around, but there's quite a few online where you can rent designer dresses. So, if you're really going for something flash, if you're going to the Queen's Garden Party or something, darling, then, go and rent something. Don't go and spend a fortune on something you'll never wear again.
My name is Mike Holmyard. I'm the Financial Health Policy Manager at Citizens Advice Scotland. People wait too long really to deal with debt situations or are afraid of dealing with it. They're embarrassed. They're worried about what people will think. So sometimes it's easier just to put your head in the sand and forget that you've got a problem until it catches up with you. They hold on hoping that something that they do will fix the situation. They look for extreme solutions. People will gamble their last money, for example. So we want people to avoid the stress and the worry and the misery of all that. Quite often, it helps to speak to somebody about your debt situation and to be able to get a solution to it. So first of all, acknowledging that there's a problem. If you're having to use credit, for example, to pay your rent, that's not a good situation. If you're borrowing money to pay off other debts, that's not a good situation. So if that applies to you, get help early, first of all. After you've done that, you need to think about your debts and how much you owe. So it's helpful if you're seeking advice to come with a list, pre-prepared of the debts that you have and what stage they're at. And, if people have been burying their head in the sand, sometimes that might involve actually opening the envelopes for the first time. We often see people who come into the Citizens Advice Bureaus with a bag full of unopened envelopes. And, we'd have to go through those envelopes and see what's in there. And sometimes there's a nasty surprise. There could be court documentation that people haven't seen. And, they need help, emergency help at that point in time to actually deal with it. So open the letters, see what's in there, make a list of the debts that you've got and, generally what stage they're at. If you can't remember who you've taken out debts with, it does happen, or if the debts have been passed around a few debt collectors and you're no longer sure, you can also get a credit report from the likes of Equifax or Experian, and it'll tell you what debts you have. So that would be useful information to bring along to an appointment with an advisor. And then after you've done your list of debts, what you also need to do is think about a budget. And it sounds really hard, but actually all we're talking about really is writing down what you've got coming in, your income, and writing down what you've got going out, which is your expenditure. So make a list of both. Your bank statement might be able to help you with the expenditure side of things. And once you've written it all down, calculate how much money you have left over. If you've got some money left over, that's good. If you don't have any money left over, or if there's a serious shortfall, then you really need to seek some help. And our Citizens Advice Bureau advisors are good at helping people to maximise their income and get their money situation under control, and to come up with sustainable debt repayment programmes.
I'm Kim McCallister. You're listening to Clever About Cash on BBC Radio Scotland, the ultimate magazine programme for people who hate talking about money.
So earlier we were hearing, Harrison, that you love a spreadsheet, and it sounds like the girls are very organised as well. Do you guys use spreadsheets to organise your finances?
I have a bit of paper on my wall which has a list of how much money I get each week and what I need to spend each week, and that is it. So I just know that after a month I should have a specific amount. That's as far as I ever go.
Okay, what about you? You're also an economics student, Rachel.
I am, but I don't use spreadsheets. I just keep like a note of on my phone of how much is coming in, how much is going out. Nothing too fancy.
So luckily we've got financial coach Eileen Adamson back with us. Eileen, you have a daughter at university. How is she managing with her money?
She's certainly changed her attitude towards food shopping and sends me messages saying, oh, look, I've managed to get my whole food shopping for £17 this week. This is great. And rather than when she's going with me doing food shopping, bunging smoked salmon into the basket.
Eileen, you've been listening to what the students have been saying. I don't know about you, but I've been very impressed. But there's no getting away from the fact that they are facing some pretty big debts when they graduate. What do you reckon?
I'd like to ask, do you understand the difference between a good debt and a bad debt?
I wasn't aware that there was such a thing as good debt, because it all sounds pretty bad to me.
Yeah, that's a very common feeling that all debt is bad. Mm-hmm. Good debt would be something that will add value to your life. So, for example, perhaps buying a house with a mortgage, you couldn't afford to buy it otherwise, and it would add value to your life. You have somewhere to live in, etc. Student loan would also be considered as a good debt, because for many students, you couldn't go to university or college or further your education if you didn't have a loan. Many students are coming out with big, massive loans of £60,000 of debt, which can seem really, really scary. But as Rachel and Harrison were both saying earlier on, it's paid back in very small amounts and it's paid back over a lot of years. So it's an investment in your future. The average graduate will make a lot more than someone who hasn't invested in their education. So do you have any idea what might be a really bad debt?
Putting nights out on your credit card, that doesn't scream good debt to me.
Right, so putting money onto a credit card, which a credit card is not going to be a good debt because credit cards are really expensive ways of borrowing money. Harrison's very responsible and pays back his credit card every single month, which is good, but it's been shown that people actually are willing to spend a third more than they would if they're parting with cash if they are paying by credit card. So that's something to think about, that it's much easier to splash the cash with a credit card. This buy now, pay it later can be really, really tempting to students.
I fell into that trap when I was a student. I'm just going to admit that right here and now, because I was buying a pair of shoes and they said, do you want a store card? You could pay it off later. And I went, oh, that sounds good. Didn't even think about it. And then I had a £25 debt that turned into like 40 quid because I just kept forgetting to pay it.
Yes, and
I'd like to say I wouldn't do it now, but...
Previously, store cards and credit cards were very much the easy buy now, pay it later options, whereas now it's also online and we're offered the opportunity often at the till or the checkout online to pay now, to pay in 30 days or to pay after delivery. All of these things are very tempting. If you've not got the money, then it's very tempting to say, oh, well, I'll just pay after delivery, or, oh, I'll pay in 30 days. What that then does is it then means that if you've done that with a couple of different purchases, suddenly in 30 days, you've got such and such £10 coming off your bank account here and another £20 coming off your bank account here, and that then makes it really difficult. So the advice I would give to students is to do exactly as you three are doing and budget your money really carefully and only buy what you can afford. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice for students, is to just pay what you can afford. In terms of bank accounts, how do you manage your money?
I've got 4 bank accounts. That could be a bit excessive. Perhaps I went overboard with opening bank accounts. As soon as I hit 18, I was like, okay, I can do this now. I'm just going to do it. There are a couple of fantastic apps out there that allow you to see all your balances together, so it doesn't actually inhibit me having all these different bank accounts, and each bank account has its perks. So yeah, I'd really advocate for more. I don't know whether you'd agree.
Yes, I think using bank accounts wisely is a brilliant way of helping students to budget really effectively. Starling and Monzo are fantastic accounts that you can open on an app, so it's super quick to open it. Once you've opened it on the app, they then send you a card and it just operates like a normal bank account. The beauty of them is that you can budget straight within the app. So we don't need to have bits of paper every stuck up in the wall. The app will allow you to set a budget within the app. Every transaction that you make will then automatically categorise itself against the different budget categories. You can be standing at the till making a purchase with your card and the notification that you've spent that comes into your phone immediately. It's really useful for budgeting.
Would you have to open a whole new bank account, or do you use your current? So we'll have like student bank accounts at the moment with an overdraft. Would we move everything to the Monzo and Starling, or do we still connect? We just connect it to that account.
Personally, what I would do is keep my student account, because your student accounts are offering you interest-free overdrafts, which are a great way of getting extra money available to you without it costing you. The one thing I would say about the 0% overdrafts is, remember, they will still have to be paid back. And when you graduate, they're not going to be 0%. But I would keep the student account and get all the money paid into that, and then just use Starling or Monzo as a spending account. So just transfer the money over, and they just work as a normal bank account.
Definitely going to, as soon as this finishes, look up Monzo and Starling and look about opening my 5th account, which is very exciting.
I personally have recently consolidated some of my debts into one loan, and as financial advisor Phil Anderson has been telling Richard, that's actually not a bad idea.
There's a couple of different ways that you can consolidate money. One, if you own a property, you can sometimes add it onto a mortgage. If you don't already own a property, you can sometimes take out a loan to consolidate debts. But basically what you're doing is taking money from one debt and putting it into another, usually to take it over a longer term, which then reduces your monthly outgoings.
So that's some of the benefits. Are there drawbacks as well?
One of the major drawbacks is that the longer you take a debt out over, usually the more money you'll pay back in the longer term.
Folk might already have credit card debt with a bank or a different company. Should you try and get your consolidation loan with that same company?
No, I would say it's definitely worth shopping around. Again, some of the comparison websites can give you an idea of rates with other banks and building societies. It's rare that your own bank would have the best rate out there. So again, that's often a good point to seek financial advice, just so that someone can have a look to see who has got the best deals for your personal circumstances.
And can all types of debt be consolidated into the loan?
You'll tend to find that most providers will consider it. It depends on their own criteria. Generally, the majority of debts can be. Sometimes if a debt was for maybe business purposes, companies aren't so keen at taking that on. So it really depends on the lender, what their criteria is.
In what situation would you advise somebody to get a consolidation loan?
I would say if they're really struggling. I would also say if their interest rate is very high. So for example, if someone's got a credit card with an interest rate of maybe about 19% or 24%, something like that, then you would think, well, the monthly payments each month is generally just covering the interest. So for example, the interest rates on remortgages at the moment can range from anything from 2 to 5%. So generally you would kind of take each person's circumstances as it is, but there's quite a lot of instances when it may be worth looking at consolidating.
So how much are our phones costing us?
So I pay £28 a month. That's for like everything. So it's like a contract phone. So like I didn't pay any upfront costs, but then I have to pay that every month for 2 years.
Don't be spending more than £15 a month on a phone, because some people are paying upwards of £40, £50 a month for a phone. If you buy it second hand, refurbished phones. You can get a great iPhone second-hand for £100, £150, and then SIM-only contracts for... SIM-only contracts now are starting about £6-7 a month, up to £10 and £12 a month. And you have got plenty minutes, data, etc., and you're not tied into a SIM-only deal. So it might be worth, Rachel, thinking about keeping your phone once you've paid off your contract. If you keep your phone and perhaps think about getting a SIM-only deal, if you can get one for £10, there's an extra £18 a month that you can spend on something much more exciting.
I am being completely fleeced. I'm paying about £60 a month for my mobile.
It's absolutely wild.
Okay, we've all learned something, including me, that certainly made me look back at my student days and go, wow, if I'd had any of this information, I would have made some much better choices. So thank you all very much.
Next time on Clever About Cash, we'll be taking our first step onto the property ladder. But before we go, Eileen has some homework for us.
If you feel that you can manage your debts yourself, then a method called snowballing might really help you. The idea of snowballing is that you pay your debts off in a specific order and have a step-by-step plan to follow. There's 2 ways of doing it. Option 1, pay the debts in order, starting with the ones with the highest interest. Option 2, pay the debts in order, starting with the smallest debt first. Now you can decide which option suits you best. Paying the ones with the highest interest first makes the most financial sense because it's the cheapest way to do it. However, paying the smallest ones first might feel more motivating because instead of having 5 debts to pay, you only have 4, then 3. This method often works better for people who have debts because it can feel that you're paying your debt off more quickly. To use the debt snowball, you should go to whatsthecost.com/snowball and enter your details. The calculator will then work out how much you should pay to each card and will tell you when your debt-free day will be. Play around with the calculator to see what a difference it would make if you could find another £50 a month or another £100 a month. How much sooner will your debt-free day come? Another thing that you should do is check Money Saving Expert's soft search calculator to see if you can switch any of your debts to 0% interest. If you're successful with this, then go back to the snowball calculator and see what a difference that will make to your debt-free day. I bet you will be pleasantly surprised. Remember, if you feel that you can't cope with your debts yourself, then please contact Step Change, who offer free debt advice.
I'm Kim McCallister. You've been listening